Now, it is time. It is 10:30 on the East Coast. It is -3 on the West Coast. So 10 minus 3 equals 7. So that means that this gentleman is on his first cup of coffee, and he's ready to rock and roll. Niko Moreno from Pulso Sports in the Soccer Bar. Welcome, my friend. It is Thursdays with Niko. How are you?
Hey, I am doing great. It's actually cup number 2 in about a 3-hour span. So I'm ready to go, excited. We just had midweek game, 36 goals in the midweek games. Only 2 teams at home lost yesterday, San Luis and Portland. So excited to be on. It's been a very interesting week, as a matter of fact.
You ain't kidding, brother. I mean, you're talking about games that started late. We had 3 matches with weather delays. We had 1 match that didn't happen at all, and apparently folks were injured because 9 folks were injured at Red Rocks in the vicinity of the Colorado Rapids Vancouver game because of golf ball sized hail that fell. We deserved this, Niko. We deserved all of this madness because we're having quick turns on a Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. With all that happening, the few games that did get underway and the fans that were so passionate and graceful to stay through weather delays and obviously had to get hurt by goal-sized hail. I mean, you got to applaud them for that commitment to their teams. But it was a great week, man. All in all, MLS, we went through Nations League, and that was cool to watch as well. So a lot of soccer, lots to talk about.
How messed up is L3 right now?
I mean, it's a disarray. It's something that is almost unseen. This is uncharted waters for the federation in terms of how fed up the fan base is and how little and how small the potential and the possibility of getting out of this constant decline and constant rut of soccer that they've had for the last 3 years or so. I mean, it's been big time players like Raul Jimenez disappearing completely, guys like Chucky Lozano not necessarily translating some club success into the national team, the lack of young talented players that are difference makers, the battle for power within their own federation. This is who I want in charge of the national team. This is who I like. I mean, it's so many components. It's almost the perfect storm in Mexico right now. The huge problem that they've had for a very long time, and they're just starting to realize in terms of developing younger players and using their league to have a pipeline of success of those young players. So, I mean, it's as bad as I've ever seen it for L3.
And they fired Diego Coca after 7 matches. They gave him the thank you full screen on social media. Thank you, Diego Coca. 7 matches. And it's to the point now with L3 where, if you look at the match with the United States, if things aren't going well for us, we're just going to drag you into the pit ourselves. If we're in the quicksand, we're going to drag you into it to be a part of it. Right now, that seems to be the only kind of game they have. And Canada was the same way in the final.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Mexico's frustration individually for every player is just feeling like they can't make a difference. I mean, they were outplayed, outclassed, outdueled in that game against the U.S. that there is no other way for me to try to get this game back than to chop a player on a break from the back, right? And then that becomes chippy, and you try to influence the game by being aggressive and all of these things that broke out in that game. But at the end of the day, they just knew that there was nothing that they could do to win that game back. There was just too much talent on the field for the U.S. national team. I've talked about the fact that look, I think it's ridiculous that we talk about BJ Callahan and what he did and what he's. I mean, look, it's a couple of games. I get that you have to make the calls from the bench, and that's not easy. But this is still the Greg Berhalter era. This is still that group that he molded, that he has brought in for several years. This is the group that was at a World Cup, so it was very easy in certain parts of the field for them to just get back to just playing soccer. And you saw that on the field. There were just so much more connections and ability to just coexist in the field that you didn't have that in Mexico. I think they're struggling so much. So I just think it all came down to not being able to change the game and realizing, hey, the U.S. is better right now.
All right, let's talk Major League Soccer. Coming up, as always, we do red light, yellow light, green light. That's coming up in just a little bit. And we will talk about the day that was and the Saturday that will be with a bunch of matches and anything else on Niko's mind until the top of the hour, as we always do with Thursdays with Niko here on SDH. When it comes to LAG, Chicharito now on long-term injury, it's going to be an interesting transfer window for LAG and trying to figure out what to do. And my optimism or lack thereof when it comes to LAG has not changed. And I know that you finally just have the finality of the whole thing right now, next to last in the standings, 6 points adrift of Minnesota. You're right down there with the Prairie Dogs, with Colorado at the bottom. 17 matches, 14 points, 16 goals scored in 17 matches. And a lot of the pressure now is going to be placed on Ricky Puig, which makes them, I think, an easy target to figure out. Where is LAG right now?
They are trying to get the water out of the boat. They they've been taking in water. They are a very limited team in terms of how to approach a game and how to attack. I think they're predictable. Without Javier Hernandez, they're a little bit toothless at times. Yes, in this game against Sporting Kansas City, they come up top. They are able to get ahead. And then Sporting Kansas City, a team that is started at the basement and they're midway through the building with some quality play from Pulido, some great influence by Saloui in the attacking end, by a midfield that's starting to really click. They get the game back, right? And it's just not enough what you have in the bench. You could tell that there's mental blockage in so many players where once that first goal, once that the second goal by LAG came in, you could tell that they were afraid that one thing would go wrong and they would lose that game. And that ends up being the case when Sporting Kansas City ultimately equalizes this game. So I just think that the transfer window is going to be interesting because there are obviously limitations that they have to abide by. They can't add any players that require transfer fees and they're abroad. So they're going to have to get, a free transfer fee player, something of that nature to attempt to fill up some holes. But all in all, and to conclude the point, I just think that there isn't enough quality and there's not enough of a cohesive group to get this team out of the moment that they're in and eventually get into a playoff spot.
It is that time since we are getting close to the halfway point of the segment. We always do this. For those who have never had the chance to catch Thursdays with Niko either independently or catch it here on the segment, we always do what we do. We call red light, yellow light, green light. We are sitting at the intersection of soccer in our soccer mobile, and we are waiting to figure out what color the stoplight is going to be when it comes to Major League Soccer in this massive mobile that we have here. It's a party bus with everybody watching on the Twitch pitch. It's double layers. It's a bunch of fun. What we do every single week, I ask Niko who is at the red light, who is in serious trouble, and it could be a team that has had to smash on the brakes to stop in that intersection, or they could be just have a car that has a transmission that's awful. Yellow light could be a team that is working its way out of red light, working toward green light, so it could be a point of improvement, or it could be a team going the other way. And Greenlight is the team, obviously, that they've got the souped-up Dodge Charger, and they're just pushing through intersections. They've got that big Ram TRX pickup truck, and they're going through all of the simulations on Instagram and speeding past the cops, and there's no problem. So what direction do you want to start first? Do you want to start red light, work your way up? Do you want to start green light, work your way down?
Oh, let's start green light. This one. We'll start with the positive notes and the team that has been more than dominant, and obviously it's a team I've talked about before. But Cincinnati is the green team. Cincinnati is the team that now has a perfect record at home, 10 wins. Without 6 starters, I believe, in this one. They debut a 15-year-old. They were able to put Gaddis at playing center back. Lucho Acosta doing Lucho Acosta things, just a magician and someone that's able to find players between lines, that's able to put the ball in the back of the net when necessary. He influenced so many components of this team. We saw Kubo up top. That was interesting. So for a Cincinnati team to dismantle Toronto, a team that we'll talk about in a little bit, but definitely one that has holes and problems, but there's still a quality side when it comes to individual talent. You have to give props to a Cincinnati squad that has the ability to go get another DP, still can improve. Once again, without Miazga, without Mosquera, without Vasquez, I mean, this team just shows you that there's no stopping them. And they're so ahead of the game in terms of the Shield. They could potentially do a breaking record season. I mean, the sky's the limit for this squad. That ability to win at home is fantastic, yes. But all in all, this team is very balanced, hard to beat, hard to break down, good under pressure. They push their white players fantastically. They boast the overlaps. They just do so many things right with still room to grow. So, man, they're the green light by a long shot.
All right. So then that means what we can do with the yellow light is someone who is trending downward from green toward red, or someone who is trending from red toward green. You can always, as a part of the bylaws here, you can always name a team, the same team in subsequent weeks, but you have to come up with a different reason as to why. Where are you going with your yellow light?
I'm going to go to Real Salt Lake. This is a team that's been between red and yellow and just kind of trying to find itself. But with the acquisition of Chicho Arango, who obviously didn't play yesterday, but just the potential that he brings into this squad, to a Real Salt Lake team that won at San Luis, it's not easy to do, that has such a quality midfield. I just really like what they're putting together, man. And I could only see what you could eventually do with Chicha maybe playing up top. You play with a line of 3 behind them, and you got Severino on one side, and you got Gomez on the right side, and Krylak playing the 10. I mean, Krylak was fantastic yesterday, man. That first goal where he does the dummy play, pulls the defender, and I think it's Luna that puts the goal away right behind him. Then he's part of the second goal where Luna's fighting for it. There's a little bit of a more wanting it than the other team in that goal, and Krylak finally puts it away. So there are just so many good pieces in this squad from midfield up. They still have to fix some things in the back end, especially with their fullbacks. I like Glad, I like Vera, but for me, Brody sometimes can get a little too high and leave some open areas in the back end. But I love what this team is doing, where they're heading. Once again, this 3-1 win is very telling to me against a tough St. Louis side, especially at home. So, yeah, I really enjoy what RSL are doing, and they're my yellow team for this week.
All right, so then that leaves one color left, and who are you putting in that particular grid?
So this was a tough one, right? Because honestly, there are quite a few teams that we've talked about. There's always seems to be the exact same teams, particularly for whether it's the Western Conference or Eastern Conference. But I'm just going to go ahead and be honest with you. Toronto we're going to talk about him one more time.
Yeah.
Because of now with Bernadeschi and Insigne putting whatever issues and differences aside, you would think that this team would look a little bit better in offensively at the very least. Offensively, I'm not asking you to give me a balanced squad and do a little bit of everything right, but find a niche, find a hook. Give me something that I can rely and say every single week, this is what I'm going to get. Oh, I'm going to get Insigne completely moving the ranks, being the guy that does it all. Give me Bernadeschi just changing up the game and getting goal after goal. Maybe they're getting beat 3-2, 4-3. Give me something, but there is nothing about this Toronto team that's special other than the soap opera and the potential of a fantastic Hard Knocks MLS side. I mean, if that was to happen. But other than that, Toronto is honestly one of the teams that are less exciting to watch, predictable on how bad they're going to be and how much they stumble upon themselves. So Toronto is, because of how much money there is and how much of their salary is spent and how little they're getting out of that equity, they're my red team. And they're going to be my red team for a long time if they can't figure it out.
Well, and you had an incident last night where Bernadeschi thought that he should just go ahead and try and headbutt Ray Gaddis.
Oh.
And he got a yellow out of the deal, which is a head scratcher in and of itself. Well, the first head scratcher is, why do you think you should headbutt Ray Gaddis? The second one, the fact that he only got a yellow out of the deal. And I'm wondering if the league office is not going to look at this and extend and expand that. It just seems that with all of the drama and Hard Knocks TFC, with Bernadeschi and Insigne and all of the stuff with Bob Bradley and all of this, this to call it at times a dumpster fire seems like you're insulting a dumpster.
Absolutely, and you're spot on. From just the attitude level and how frustrated they look consistently, lack of leadership by your DPs, and someone like Bernadeschi that seems to believe he's above the league, I would be more than okay with the league going and not only does the gesture, he actually hits Gaddis in the face. I've seen guys getting thrown out for less for just putting their hand in someone's face. So absolutely, the midfield as well. You got some guys back. You got Osorio. You got Kay. I mean, there is literally very little that you can say to excuse the poor performance in general by this team. And again, I don't want to take credit away from Cincinnati, but they were coming very limited, and with some homegrowns and shifting several areas. Santiago Arias is a guy that, he's still trying to figure out the league. He's been going through injuries, and he was great in this game, gets his first goal ever in MLS. So all in all, man, I just think that Toronto, and obviously the head coach, Bob Bradley, there needs to be a rebuild of their system and figure out what they're going to do to figure it out, man, because you just can't see it.
I mean, here's your lineup last night for Cincinnati. Roman Celentano, who is a college draft pick, who has turned into a fantasy madman. For anybody that wants to pick up a keeper in fantasy, go get Roman Celentano. Back three, Gaddis, Murphy, and Aldis Powell. Arias, Mobodu, Angulo, Barreal at the back. Barreal's been a great find for them defensively. And then up top, yes, Kubo, Acosta, and Dom Badji. You contrast that with the lineup that was put out last night for Bob Bradley. Greg Ranjit Singh in net because Sean Johnson's away on international duty. And no knocking Greg. Greg has come up big he's been a fantastic keeper in USL Championship, and he's had cups of coffee in Major League Soccer at a couple of different points. Petretta, Mabika, Larea, who just fell down again, and Franklin is your back four. Osorio, Mark Anthony K, Brandon Cervania is your midfield, and then Bernadeschi, Sapong, and Insigne up top. You would sit there and you're going, okay, I look at that Toronto lineup and I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty solid. And then because of what we're seeing with Cincinnati, basically being built as Philadelphia Union South, because of what we're getting from Albright and Noonan there in Cincy, they're working the system. They're doing what they've done with Philadelphia, applying it to Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, we know that they are an economical – they have to do things economically. They can't break open the piggy bank to get things done. They're doing things a certain way. They sold off Brenner to help things out. They're finding those pieces with Cincinnati. And the dichotomy, as Jason Nick says, wild contrast. Salary and points for Cincy and Toronto, first to last. That is wild. And, yeah, Alec Can still is in Cincy, Sam, but Roman Celentano has Wally pipped him. Absolutely has.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's kind of the all-in-all connection that you see from some good coaching, that regardless of who's in, there's a certain style of play that's consistent. Doesn't matter who's in there. And even if players are playing out of position, like Kubo, like Gaddis, the ability to have that coaching style and way of play just makes things a little bit easier. So Cincinnati, we've knocked them in the past for spending a lot of money and not doing much with it. It seems like they're turning that corner, right? They're selling off. They're producing some of that equity from players. We still don't know what's going to happen with Brandon Vasquez. They have a guy like Lucho Acosta that seems to be their Nicolas Odera, right? He's going to be the Ed man, the one that's going to be their experience. We know we're going to get week in, week out. So they're just solid right now. And you got to give props to the coach and the changes that have happened in terms of the direction of the franchise in general.
One more match before we get into juice boxes for the weekend that will be. Mateus Bogusz scores in the first minute. Nothing else happens over the final 89 on the scoreboard. LAFC got the Duke at BMO last night. What happened?
Wow, that was a tough game for Seattle, man. It's hard to explain because you give up a goal within a minute of starting. You get caught up in transition. Maybe you just didn't start the game at the top intensity of your game, and you pay for it. And yeah, there's a deflection. Stuff tries to get it, and that just kind of changes the game. An early goal is tough to handle, and you would expect that an experienced team like Seattle would, and they did, right? They played 50 to 55 minutes of very good soccer. Raul Ruiz had an infinity of chances. Props to obviously an LAFC team that was able to handle the pressure, that goalkeeper saved them a bunch of times. But Seattle did their job. They contained Bouanga. They were able to keep Palacios from getting too far ahead. After the link-up play was very good in general. Leo Chu got consistently behind his defender and used the flank on the left side greatly. But it all goes back to just not being able to put it in the back of the net. And look, I like Leo Chu. I think he's insisting constantly to that side. He has great speed and he's hard to handle and defend, but he's very unidimensional, right? You know what he's going to do. You know he's going to get to the end line and just drop the ball. He's got to pick up his head a little bit. Niko was doing some late tracking runs into the box. If Leo Chu just picks up his head a little bit and drops the ball back, you create a better opportunity than maybe just hitting it right off and looking for Raul in the exact same spot. So talked about it with Brian Smetzer. He says this is what we got, right? Christian Roldan, Jordan Morris, obviously key components, both gone. You have guys that are in international duty that got hurt as well. You got injuries. You got a whole bunch of things that you're dealing with, but there's no excuses. And he plain out went and said it. LAFC, even though they were the team that was not coming from a break and that should be the more tired team, looked like the more rested side and the more energized side in the second half, and that's tough to see. I think if Seattle needs to do something is figure out why the substitutions have not been game changers for him. It seems like when you look at the bench, you bring in players, but how much are they really influencing the game and maybe giving Brian Smetzer a different look is not really happening there. That's why I think that in the transfer window, this team is in dire need for a right winger, a winger with goal. Obviously, Seattle is very limited in terms of salary cap space. Their trading chip was Javier Arriaga, still is, but he could be out from 4 to 5 weeks with a quad strain that's quite serious, I'm told, one that he suffered while he was with Ecuador. So when you have a guy that might be out for that long and he's your trading chip, that devalues him, or is he, or are you even going to be able to get him somewhere and you be able to use that GAM or TAM or just general money to just find you a winger that's going to give you something different off the bench. So I just think all in all, Seattle was limited, and their bench, their depth just didn't quite work last night, because it didn't matter if it was Baker Whiting or Kellen Rowe or Abear. They just were not able to come into the game and really give Seattle a different look.
All right, 5-minute warning, and it's where we look into the weekend in selective juice boxes. I know that Seattle, in turn, has a quick turn. They're hosting the Purple Team, one of the late games on Saturday night at 10:39 Eastern. Seattle's a minus 105. Your draw's a plus 250, and the Purple Team is a plus 280. Purple Team had a lead against Philadelphia, lost it, so they turned 3 points into one, and they have to travel from one end of the world to the other to take on Seattle this weekend.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that Orlando has a very good case to come in and do some damage. They have issues of their own. You saw it this week, right? They're able to get ahead with a couple of goals. You see the talent up top. But this is a game that I could see being a draw, and a draw that's going to be very discomforting for the fan base and the team. But all in all, I think that this Purple Team and Oscar Pereja usually play us well here in Seattle, and Oscar Pereja in general, ever since he was with FC Dallas. But I think this midfield and how Orlando gets forward out wide can put Seattle in some predicaments. And it's going to come down to how good Seattle can be in transition defense and rest defense and being able to contain what Orlando does well. So because I think it's going to be a little bit of a chess match, I think that your money should go to a draw in this one for sure.
All right. So then what other matches do you want to roll into and discuss heading into the weekend? We've got, I'll give you the list. You can just tell me when to stop. Charlotte hosting CF Montreal, Crew hosting Nashville, DC hosting FC Cincinnati, Revs hosting your Hard Knocks boys out of Toronto, Red Bulls, Atlanta United. Let's stop there. What do you think about Red Bulls, who are a minus 105 as Atlanta comes to town at a plus 275? They do have Giakoumakis and Almada supposedly coming back.
Yeah. What's the odds of that? Because Atlanta is the visiting team, right?
Yep, plus 275 for Atlanta United on the road. Your draws a plus 258. Red Bulls are a minus 105 at home.
I'll take Atlanta. In this one. Guys getting back. A Red Bulls team that you saw them struggle just now. They were able to rescue a point at the very end in the midweek game, but it looked like they were out of sorts at time. I like what I saw from Atlanta offensively. They put the ball in very good positions. I mean, Wolf is going to want that goal back where he thought that he could just run into the ball and put it in, but somehow he goes backwards. I don't even know how that happened. But I think that overall attacking movements, they were dangerous in many parts of the game in this one against, yes, a New York team that hasn't won in 10 games and is struggling. But all in all, I think Atlanta did well offensively. Again, the thing that needs to go away is them tripping on themselves and giving silly goals and being so dismissive and negligent with the ball in certain parts of the field. But I think in this one, I'm going to take the road team. I think Atlanta can come back with, obviously, Gigi, that's a huge difference maker, Thiago Almada, and the rest of this talented team. So, yeah, that's a good one for me. I like that one.
All right, Philadelphia hosting Inter Miami, another Copa Tejas. It is Austin hosting Houston, Sporting hosting Chicago Fire, Rapids hosting LAG, RSL hosting Minnesota United, LAFC hosting Vancouver Whitecaps, South of U, Portland hosting NYC, San Jose hosting All Caps as St. Louis City SC hits the road. I mean, it's interesting matchups, but there are like a couple that are there. What else stands out in your mind for this weekend?
What's the Houston Dynamo on that one?
Houston is on the road, a plus 241 heading to Q2. Austin is an even money plus 100. Your draw is a plus 271. So Dynamo to win a plus 240, draw a plus 270.
Yeah, let me get that Houston game with the over on goals. What is it right now at? I think it's 3.5. What's the goals?
Let's check 3.5. 3.5 is a plus 184.
I could take both of those. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I really like what I've seen out of Houston. We've talked about him being on the rise. Yes, Austin comes in and takes care of business and looks good, but I think they're still very vulnerable. They didn't really get challenged this midweek. Houston on the other side, I think Ache is beginning to look like the Ache that everybody wanted to see. I like how they get on their white play. They're very practical and vertical, and they make it very simple to get across with just a couple of passes. So let me get Houston and the over on this one. That's going to be a good one right there. I'm not going to lock it, but that's going to be one of those good games, though. I like it.
There you go. All right, what's going on at Pulso Sports on the Soccer Bar?
All right, Soccer Bar, we are going to be in at 1 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be talking, obviously, about everything that just happened. We will touch up a little bit on Nations League and kind of some of those breakdowns that have come across in terms of L3. What's going to happen next? Is it going to be Nacho Ambriz? Is it going to be El Piojo? What's going to happen with this national team? Is LaSalle going to be able to stay? That's kind of what we're going to talk about in Soccer Bar today. Obviously, about Cincinnati, the stumbles that Sounders are taking. So it's going to be a good one. And in Pulso Sports, we spoke to Roman Torres this weekend. If you guys haven't looked at our Instagram story, some really cool stuff with Roman visiting, obviously, Seattle for the very first time. We also talked to him about Panama, the generational change, what's going on with Mexico. I thought it was interesting that he said that in general, CONCACAF is just growing, right? Canada's growing and Costa Rica's growing and Panama's in a generational change. The U.S. looks like they're dominating. They're the new giant in the league. So it's a really good conversation with him. He also talks about coming back to the city and maybe doing some projects out here, maybe some academies, maybe some involvement directly with the club. So Roman Torres is always fun to watch. So check that out at Pulso Sports.
All right, Niko Moreno, as always, our Thursdays with Niko. Niko, my friend, it's always great to have you to break things down. We will catch up with you again next week.
Thank you, my guy. Appreciate you.
All right, that's Niko, and since it is the end of the show, that means we get to do this. It is Mucha Plata. We'll be back tomorrow from the shores of Jersey as we get you ready for Atlanta United and Red Bulls. So play it safe, Mucha Plata, be safe, everybody, and we're out the door. So since it's the end of the show, that means we get to do this. We'll do it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. Bart Keeler hanging out. We're going to talk U.S. women's national team, Beyond Goals mentoring, weekend whip around. All that's at 10 o'clock, or all that's at 9:05 starting. Busy. It's just busy. It's just busy. We'll do it again tomorrow. Be good.